Hey guys, this is Solution Podfics, and we're going to be reading Birds of a Feather by House_Library. This is Chapter 3. Peter had never felt like he wanted to throw up, cry, scream, and shit his pants at the same time before, but he was feeling it now. The Tompkins shelter reminded him of Feast back in New York, and that reminded him of Aunt May, and then that led him down a whole other spiral of anxiety. It's the taste of iron in his mouth that snaps him out of it. Ow, shit! Peter grabs his lip and realizes he almost started to chew through it. He looks around, making sure no one is watching, and turns to the bed that he was given. He's not bleeding too bad, so a bit of pressure should help. The bathroom isn't that far from his bed. It's set up like a large locker room with lockers for those who want to bring their own lock and keep stuff here. From what Peter heard from the guy who checked him into the shelter, he can stay 72 hours at a time. But has to rotate out for 48 hours before checking back into this location. With 4 sister locations throughout Gotham, he figures he should be fine moving around until he gets his feet off the ground. Peter was a bit surprised to see a bit of hesitancy from Jason as he was dropping him off. It was almost as though he didn't want to leave Peter alone. To be honest, Peter didn't really know what to think of Jason. He seemed like an okay guy, but there were some mixed signals he was getting from him during their conversation on the way over to the shelter. Peter looked at himself in one of the mirrors and almost jumped at the sight he saw. Peter had small cuts and several bruises across his face, and his arms weren't looking much better. No wonder Jason had said all those things about how he looked. The smell was finally setting in as Peter's stomach churned when he sniffs around. He looked down at his first-timer toiletry bag he got, and then at the showers. A small sigh leaves his lips. The shower may have been exactly what Peter needed. One of the girls at the check-in counter had given him a small first aid kit, so he was now looking back at a significantly cleaner version of himself, with about 5 facial bandages. He got some sterile gauze to wrap his arms, and with the numbing ointment from the first aid kit, he was feeling about as good as he could be due to the circumstances. He was given one fresh piece of clothing. His options were limited, but they were all BatFamily themed. He almost scoffed at the amount of what he considered merch this family seemed to have. He ended up choosing the Nightwing pullover since it already matched the sweatpants he had taken earlier. It was finally starting to get dark, and as it did, Peter looked around at the volunteers starting to put up some sort of panel over the windows and setting up some heavy-duty locks at the entrances. Jason had shared with Peter that Gotham was not the safest place to live, and seeing all this seemed to be a testament of that. He also told Peter to not fully trust the police, which is fine because Peter did not want to get involved in any way, shape, or form with the police. If he ever did get involved with them, and they had to do a background check, look him up, or try to locate where he lives, would CPS have to get involved? He already feared what Jason said about that, but the police corruption sounds like a whole other thing on top of that. What was he supposed to do? Could he even walk outside without being flagged down? How was he supposed to get home? Could he even go home? What had Strange even done by sending him here? A voice starts to come through his ear on his right. "Excuse me. Hi, are you doing okay? It looks like your finger is bleeding." Peter blinks as he looks at his thumbnail, which he didn't even notice he had been chewing on. It was bleeding pretty badly. "Oh, fuck," Peter gasps as he looks down at his sheets, and of course, they are bloody. "Shit, I'm so sorry." Peter turns to look at the voice and is met by 2 faces. A blonde, blue-eyed girl who, at first glance, looks about his age. Porcelain skin and a burgundy shirt that reads Shelter Aid with a black headband. The boy to her left seems to be around the same age as him as well, wearing the same shirt with tan skin and brown hair and brown eyes, and probably a bit taller than Peter. "It's totally okay, don't worry about it. You just seemed like you were stressed, and then I saw blood," she says to him. She hands him some large cloth balls and some small water bottles. The boy next to her speaks too. "You might also want to rinse it with this too." He hands Peter what looks like rubbing alcohol. "Just wet the cloth in that and you should be good. There should be some bandages in the kit you were given when you checked in." The boy smiles at him. Peter smiles sheepishly at them. "Thank you." He gets up and makes his way to a small wash station next to his bed. The alcohol stings, but it doesn't hurt anywhere near the other things he's experienced today. "My name is Jamie, and this is Gwen," he hears the boy say to him from behind. He turns back to look at them as he puts on the Band-Aid. Jamie and Gwen looked interested in Peter, and he didn't know how that made him feel. He was already getting deja vu to Barbara and Jason. "It's nice to meet you both. My name is Peter," he says quietly. "Well, Peter, we're at the end of our shift, but we were going through the people staying tonight to make sure everything's alright and verify your stay and checkout date." Gwen says as she taps the pen on her clipboard. Jamie had just handed Peter new sheets and passed off his dirty ones to another volunteer. Oh, okay, that sounds good. Peter looks at her clipboard and then at her. What exactly do you need to know? It says here you're planning on staying the full 3 days with the possibility of returning for the next 2 weeks. Is that correct? She asks him. Yeah, that sounds about... He starts, but is interrupted by the lead volunteer speaking through the mini loudspeaker at the front of the shelter. Jamie Reyes, Samuel Mendez, Carrie Kelly, Tiffany Fox, and Gwen Stacy. Please get your name tags and pass badges back to the front as soon as possible. Gwen looks at Jamie as she takes off her name tag and badge as she hands them to him. Can you take these for me, please? I can finish up with Peter, then we can take the shuttle out of here. Jamie nods at her and he grabs all the stuff. Peter looks back at her as his eyes widened. Gwen Stacy? That name. It was the name of the girl that Peter 3 lost in his universe. His girlfriend. He had just heard about her for the first time in less than 48 hours. It had to be a coincidence, but she matched the description that Peter 3 had given him when he talked about her, even down to the black headband. He was probably just delusional at this point. He was sick of thinking of the multiverse. Do I have something on my face? Gwen asks, giving him an intrigued look. She moves her free hand to her forehead to feel around. Scarlet rushes down Peter's cheeks after he realizes he had just been staring straight at her. Oh, No, you're fine. Sorry for staring. It's just that you... What does he even say? Oh no, it's just that you match the description of a dead girl who looks like you and has the same name. Oh, and did I mention that she is from another universe? Yeah, that was a no-go. You look really pretty! Peter turns an even deeper shade of red. Why the hell did he say that? The multiverse comment would have been so much better. He plants his face in his hands and groans. I am so sorry. I have had the worst day, and you wouldn't believe I am not thinking straight. Gwen laughs, like an actual laugh, and Peter really hopes she is laughing with him and not at him. It's okay. I'll take the compliment, Peter, random as it may be. She clicks her pen against her clipboard after having Peter sign it off. Goodbye, Peter. Hope to see you again. Seeing Gwen leave launched Peter back into thinking mode. If Shirley was one of the Gwen Stacys of the multiverse, she didn't recognize him at all. She didn't say he reminded her of anyone or mention any other Peters, even though they only spoke briefly. He felt as though he left enough of an impression for something to be said if so. He remembers back to what Peter 2 and 3 said to him before they got back to their homes. It seems like in every universe, a girl falls for Peter Parker. They meant it literally, and he knew they were right about at least part of it because MJ did too. She literally fell off the Statue of Liberty and almost fell to her death because of Peter. What if there wasn't a Peter in this universe? Could that be plausible? He thinks back to Strange explaining a bit of the tension between him and Wanda when it came to the multiverse. He remembered Strange had mentioned she had been searching for a universe that she died in, something about taking her place for who knows what reason. They had also talked about universes usually having a version of themselves in one way or another, but in rare cases there wasn't one, and that was about the only time it was somewhat safer to travel to those theoretically, since you wouldn't be tampering with another versions of you's timeline. Wanda wasn't looking for that though, which is what Strange reprimanded. If Strange knew the only place to send him was a place he didn't exist, then that made a little bit of sense. His heart flutters suddenly. He might have just put Gwen Stacy's path on a whole new level of danger without any control to change it on his own end. Dreaming wasn't Peter's favorite thing in the world. You would think being in a place that you create with your mind would be cool, but Peter didn't think so. It was sunny in his dream. He was with 2 young boys he didn't recognize. Was he babysitting? There was a movie playing in the background, but he couldn't really tell what it was. The couch was comfy and soft. This was weird. Peter could tell he was dreaming, which gave him the eerie feeling. He had never experienced this before. A woman walked into the room and hugged the 2 boys he was with tightly. She turns to him. Thank you, Peter. I really appreciate you taking the time and helping me out with the boys. No problem, Wanda. Anytime, he smiles. His smile falters. What was going on? She gives him a concerned glance as she touches his shoulder. She looks confused. Peter, can you see me? She asks. Peter looks at her bewildered. What was she talking about? Of course he could see her. What do you mean? He asked. She frowned slightly. Her eyes seemed to be somewhere else. You're lost, aren't you? She says softly. It's okay. I think I'm able to get you back home, she says. Wanda, what is going on? He asks, suddenly feeling anxiety creep up his back. I can sense the residual of his magic on you. This is something I've never experienced before. Peter, look at me. She grabs his shoulders. I've made some mistakes recently, so I won't be able to come help you right away. But trust me, help is coming. I am going to try my best. I'm not really able to be with you physically due to, she pauses, some recent events. But please be patient. I know someone can help. Her eyes begin moving quickly. I see why he sent you there. Believe it or not, you might be happy there. If I had the chance he gave you, I would have taken it in a heartbeat, she says softly. What did she mean would have? As in, she wouldn't anymore if given the chance? Peter, I know you have several questions, but please don't go looking for trouble. There is a version of help much closer to you than you think, she tells him. She seems to be getting further away from him as the light in the room gets darker and darker. Wait, Wanda, he yells. Please don't leave me, he screams out to her. Please don't go. Don't leave me here. Please, I want to go home. He shouts so loud his throat aches. He hears a boy crying, sobbing. Maybe one of the boys he's with. The room lights back up. He turns to look into the mirror on his left. He was the boy who was crying. Alright guys, and that is the end of chapter 3 of Birds of a Feather by House_Library. I hope you guys like this chapter and I'll see you next one.